So that was probably the last physical recovery. That was the last beam trawl.
I think we'll have a mutiny from the crew if we
If we
try
tried
and
to put
suggest
more
another
stuff
one.
in. But that was a good one. We got 2,500 meters, was it?
Almost on the dot.
There's a lot of Ophiuroids, a lot of brittle stars.
The irony is we chose that site to avoid Ophiuroids. At 1,500-ish meters, or within a fairly broad band around that depth range, it's nothing but Ophiuroids on the Chatham Rise.
Oh, it sounds like it followed us.
We would have had tens or hundreds of kilos. So. Oh, we'll go deeper. We haven't got much from there. Oh, it's more Ophiuroids. Probably shouldn't be surprised.
No, they're good at what they do. They're good at what they do. But in amongst there was, we got rat tails, we got snaffle-branchied eels, and we got some very unfortunately decompressed looking Antimora rostrata, so morid cods. And you got some of your interesting ones that eat weird things.
I did. This was a unexpectedly broad suite of mollusk habitats. We got a farcically small piece of wood which had one mussel on it. Quite often when we get organic falls or rotten wood, you can't see the wood for how many mussels there are. So that'll be interesting to see what that is. That's quite a bit deeper than any of our other woodfall mussels, of which we have quite a few. A dozen detrital squid beaks, rotting squid beaks, of which at least 4 were covered in limpets.
And these are the specialist limpets that we talked about on your episode. These are the ones that only eat squid beaks, or at least as far as we know.
There's a whole family of the things, Bathycyatids.
A whole family dedicated to eating squid beaks.
Becomes a cult at that point, I think.
I think so. Yeah. When a family becomes that dedicated, they're technically a cult. Does anything eat the pens?
I like that question. Probably, but not that I'm aware of.
Something's out there. So that was a good one. We were chatting about the tantalizing towed camera system because the bottom gear only touches for maybe 10 to 20 minutes because it picks up so much material, but when we tow the camera system, we tow it for maybe half an hour to an hour. So there's treasures on there. There's things you want.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's my first time seeing what we're looking for first, but you don't get everything you see. So it's a wonderful tool. It's really neat to see how the genuine relative abundances of these animals look, what their habitats are. So we get a lot more information than a pile of rubble and 1 or 2 specimens of going, well, I guess they're associated with rubble.
Yeah. This was probably on a rock.
I guess they live crushed
Yeah.
and dead.
Yeah. That's the natural state.
It means we can optimize where we're sampling. We can only sample for a limited time, especially on some of these seamounts, which are covered in corals. We don't want to damage our gear. We don't want to damage the corals or the seamounts.
We need to pick the right gear.
So we want to choose where would be the most interesting place that isn't too destructive, but isn't too boring, because unfortunately the most destructive sites are probably quite interesting, especially for some of our coral people on board. But looking over these footage, you go, oh, there's 2 of those, but we've only got 1. I want to dredge there. And the chances of getting one, you're hitting a fairly small target.
Yeah.
And the precision's quite impressive, what these guys can manage with a beacon on
At thousands of meters.
on the gear. They can get it within probably tens of meters fairly reliably.
And it can be 3-4K behind the boat. Yeah, the crew's been really, really good. They're good fishers.
So it's quite fun planning the tracks where you're giving your stop and start coordinates up to the bridge crew. Where you go, well, we'll put it where we saw the interesting stuff, but you can't overthink it.
You can't give them an individual.
You're going to get something interesting that you didn't even see in the footage. That's
might be
reality.
under the rock or buried in the sediment. Yeah.
So you go for something that looks like good habitat more than, I want that shell.
Yeah, where the gear's going to be successful.
What it did mean, though, was from one of our deeper stations, over 3,000 meters, we saw a large whelk. And we don't know of any whelks from that depth. So when we're deploying gear and we get an egg, but no whelk.
And clearly a whelk egg.
Yes.
It was like distinctively like a little vase. With
Yeah.
a little bit at the top.
What is it? What family is it? It's either
Who laid you? Answer me.
this or that. Yeah. We've discovered a species, but I don't know what it is. I know it's different.
That's kind of how our day starts a lot. Love it when we're wrong, when we don't know. That's when the fun starts.
Usually.
Usually, yeah. Sometimes it's just embarrassing in front of media.
Tossing up whether to share the formal list where I've made all of my
Oh,
more
the
bold
honest,
guest IDs, or the list which is going to have fewer mistakes, just in case it goes out
Yeah.
more publicly than I'd intended. I mean, either of them I stand by. Field IDs are not expected to be too reliable, but
It's when you send out the one that you realise has your nicknames for them all.
a former colleague of one of our institutions used to database things. Small pointy thing, smelly
Fine.
brown thing, ripped up bit of slime.
I like it when people like they either do the login for the ROV or like the Toad camera system we've got here, and you can tell what their specialist group is. It's like purple thing, green thing, big slimy looking thing, and then a full Latin name.
I was guilty of that, annotating some of the Detus logs. Buxinulum species 2. Antarctica
Fish.
Neptunia venticola, spiky yellow thing.
Could be rock, question mark. That's fine, that's why we have specialists on board. That's why we have a broad selection.
Maintains the mystery.
It does, we're all learning from each other.